Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everyone together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I'm just going to go one note up. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। Thank you very much. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just sit on a chair so I can see all of you better. Is that okay? I think it's better if that's not. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, yes. So thank you again, everyone, for coming, for being so open-minded. And, sorry, is this a little loud? Yes. Other way. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, this is good. Does it sound okay? All right, wonderful. Yes, so this afternoon we have a little bit of time, and the topic that we're kind of looking at today is finding your spiritual flow. How many of you feel like in your life you're in flow state right now? Yeah, some of you? I see some nodding heads. Okay, that's good. Wonderful. Is this coming up or? It's, yeah, mine as well. Yeah. Just give us a second while we get in our technical flow state so we can. Mine is in. No? Nothing? Take it in and out. Sometimes you just have to unplug it. HDMI? Okay, there we go. There is a God. All right, wonderful. Can you see that? Yeah. Yeah, wonderful, brilliant. So yeah, today we're talking about spiritual flow, and it's really something I think we all do think about, even if we may not talk about it in that terms. Because I think some of us, maybe we feel like there's more we could be doing in our life. Put your hands up if you feel like you got a bit more in the tank there that you could be offering to the world. Yeah, so how do we get into that flow state where we're really giving the best of ourselves to the world? The reason I've kind of started this presentation with this picture of a puzzle with one piece missing is that according to the ancient wisdom teachers, each one of us are like a unique piece of a puzzle. And therefore, each one of us have a unique place, each one of us have a unique position, and each one of us have something unique within ourselves that if we're able to embrace and then engage in the world, then we can actually find our flow state. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about this. But before we begin, does anyone know who this is? See who is that? Music fan. Oh, you don't? You guys don't know who this is? He's a violinist, yes. Sorry, was that someone say so? No, a good guess. This is Joshua Bell. I don't know if you've heard of Joshua Bell. but he's actually one of the most famous violinists in the world. And this is him playing in Boston. When he plays a concert, it's usually always a sellout. And in this particular concert, it was a 1,000-seater auditorium and it was a sellout. Every single ticket was sold for not less than $200. And Joshua Bell in this concert, he played for a couple of hours. And he played pieces by Mozart, by Bach, by Beethoven. And his musical brilliance is like known by most people who have some kind of understanding of this kind of compositions. And his violin here, which you're seeing, is valued at $3.5 million. Now, what they did is a social experiment, and what happened is the very next day after Joshua Bell played at a Boston auditorium to a 1,000-seater sellout for not less than $200 each, the next day, what this very same violinist did is he went into the subway and he started busking. Is that what you call it in America? Busking? Oh, that's an English term. But you know what I mean, right? Like someone who just plays on the side. So this is Joshua Bell. He played in the subway at rush hour. He played for 2 hours, just like the night before in that Boston auditorium, where every ticket got sold for not minimum than $200. That very same musician with the very same violin, which cost $3.5 million, by the way, started playing in the I don't know if it was a New York subway. Anyway, some subway. In 2 hours, you know how many people stopped to listen to him? This was in rush hour in the subway. It said that only 6 people stopped to listen to him. And it said that about 30 people threw in some coins. And at the end of 2 hours, Joshua Bell, one of the most famous violinists in the world, probably some of these people who were on the subway might have even, been at the concert or who knows. He collected a grand total of $23. Yeah. Now that's very, very interesting. Now, we could draw many, many lessons from that. When I did this once, one person said, yeah, he's not as good as I thought he was. I said, that could be one lesson. Another lesson could just be that in the busyness of life, we miss out on something that's actually really valuable. In the busyness and the kind of intensity of the world we're living in, where we're hijacked by so many different noises, so many different demands, so many different opinions and expectations, what happens is we don't have the headspace to identify that which is of value. And it's said actually that of all the things that we miss in the world, which are perhaps very, very valuable, the most ironic thing is the thing that we perhaps miss the most is the value that resides within our own being. We can be so busy and so bombarded by opinions and expectations around us that we fail to see what is valuable within ourselves. And if we do that, then we miss out on identifying the most important asset that we have in our existence. Let me ask you a question. If I was to write here in my non-writing hand, I'm not writing in my non-writing hand, but if I was, and if you were writing on a piece of paper in your non-writing hand, can you tell me some of the things that you might begin to feel? How would you describe it in a word? Don't answer if you're ambidextrous.
Difficult.
It's difficult. Okay, good. What else? You feel anxious. Okay. What else? Hesitant. Very good. What else? Challenging. It's hard. Frustrated. You said that in a very frustrated voice. Thank you. What else?
Look, it's nice.
Bad result. Yeah, what else? Unnatural. Brilliant. What else?
Not confident.
Lack confidence. Yes. Incompetent. It started quite neutral and now it's getting more and more heavy. Yes. Anything else? Doctor's writing. Slow. Exactly. Slow. Adventurous. Okay. We have someone who wants to give us another perspective. Interesting. Okay, now we're going on the positive side, huh? Okay. We could do this exercise further. I want you to look at some of these words and ask yourself, as you function and kind of go through life in your career or in whatever you do for most of your week, do you find some of these emotions coming up? Do you find that sometimes what you're doing just feels like slow, you feel like you're ineffective? Sometimes you just feel like you don't have confidence in what you're doing. Sometimes it just feels very, very unnatural to you. Sometimes you do things and then the result that comes out, you feel like, nah, I could have done better than that. Do you feel sometimes like this? Yeah, I think so. We all go through some of these kind of emotions. When we write with our non-writing hand, then we're not living according to our strength. And this is sometimes what happens in life, that what happens is we end up making decisions about how to live life, but sometimes we haven't taken the time to deeply consider, is this the most suitable thing and the most powerful and productive use of the unique personality and abilities I've been given in my life? I'll tell you an interesting statistic. For most people, they will work 40 hours a week, usually for 50 weeks in a year, usually for about 40 years of their life. That means your work, your career will, bless you, will take 80,000 hours of your life. Okay, just want you to think about that for a second. Your career is 80,000 hours of your life. Now, if you go out for a 2-hour meal, yeah, like say tonight you're thinking of going out on the town and having a meal. You probably won't want to, because at the end of this program there's going to be so much food that you're going to be like, I don't need to eat anything more. But if you did, then how long do you take to make a decision about where to eat if you're going out to a restaurant? 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes? An hour? A few hours. It sounds like it turned into an argument with the wife. Say, for example, you took 6 minutes to make a decision on a 2-hour meal. You just spent 6 minutes of your time, because that's 2 hours of your life. So you got to consider how you spend it. So imagine you spent 6 minutes to decide where to go for a 2-hour meal. If you were to put the same amount of energy into deciding your career, that would mean that you spend 4,000 hours of your life before you decide which career you're going to do. Did anyone in the room do that? This is a very, very interesting social phenomenon. That what we often do is when it comes to small decisions versus big decisions, what we end up doing is we spend a disproportionate amount of time. We spend so much time on small decisions, and when it comes to major life-changing trajectory decisions, we almost just make them relatively whimsically. And this is why most of us in our life, we often feel like, I'm not really in my flow state. I'm not really doing what I think I'm meant to be doing. And this is why spiritual wisdom and spiritual discussion is so powerful, because what it gives us an opportunity to do is step away from our lives and start putting time into thinking, what's the best use of my abilities and my personalities? Before making the big decisions, like your career, to really, really consider, is this what I really want to be doing for 80,000 hours of my life? Most people, social science tells us, over 90% of people find their career basically unfulfilling. But they do it because it gives them money and because it gives them comfort and security. But most of these people, at the end of their life, they look back and they have regrets because they feel like I spent so much time doing something that practically didn't leave me fulfilled at all. And so, finding spiritual flow is something that ancient spiritual teachers talk about. And today I'm going to share with you some ideas from the Bhagavad Gita, which is a very, very ancient book of wisdom, considered like the roots of Hinduism. Even many Buddhist and other Eastern ideas have connections with the Bhagavad Gita. And really, the Bhagavad Gita centers around something called dharma. Have you heard this word, dharma? Dharma is a Sanskrit word, and it literally means your purpose. And what the Bhagavad Gita explains is that each individual in this world has a unique purpose. And to be in spiritual flow state, first what you have to do is find your dharma. Perhaps just as challenging as finding your dharma is to then live your dharma. And then the trick is, once you've found your dharma and you're living your dharma, to then connect that dharma to a higher dimensional aspiration. According to the ancient teachers of the East, if we do these three things, then you'll look into your heart, you'll look into your mind, you'll look into your life, and you'll think, I'm living in spiritual flow. But most people don't know their dharma, and because they don't know their dharma, they're not living their dharma, or if they know their dharma, there's still other things which are taking them away from living it. And even when people are living it, they don't connect it to a higher dimensional aspiration, and therefore most people in their life feel unfulfilled. So for the next 20 minutes, I'll just share with you a little bit on these three principles of finding, living, and connecting your dharma. And then I'll kind of open it up to see whether any of you may have any questions or comments or anything you'd like to ask. Is it possible to be successful and still feel unfulfilled? Yes. They say the worst type of success is when you meet all of your goals and then you figure out they were somebody else's goals. And we're like this person in the middle, and there's all these noises around us. The noises of people around us, the noises of the media, the noises of traditions and cultures, the noises of the general things which are said to be defining success in someone's life. Now, we're not saying that all of these things are bad. It's good. Sometimes it's good to get input from those outside of us. But if all of these become so loud that they drown out our own inner voice, our own inner calling, our own inner understanding of who we are, then what happens is we might find in our life that we're living, but we're not living according to our dharma or our purpose. I want you to look at all of these, and then I'm going to ask you to shout out which one for you is the most, do you think you've been most influenced by out of all of these? Yeah, take a look. And then I want you to, after I say, and then this is like a sound survey. And then we're going to see whether one emerges as the most prominent. Yeah? Out of all of these, which would you say has influenced you the most? Okay? So I'm going to count down from 3 to 1. And then don't be shy. I just want you to shout out. Like literally shout. Which one for you has been the most influential? Okay? Are you going to do it? Okay. But you got to shout, yeah? 3, 2, 1, go. You can just do that once more. 3, 2, 1. Life. I heard life. Maybe that's because I'm closest to you. I don't think there was one. Imagine that's basically what happens to us every day. Imagine you're constantly hearing that sound, that muffled sound of all of these voices. What to speak of deciphering one voice? That's difficult. And even more difficult than that is to hear your own voice in the midst of all of that. And this is actually what most of us really, really struggle with. And so, ancient spiritual teachers tell us that when we find our dharma, then our dharma protects us. When you're living in your dharma, you feel content and satisfied. When you're living in your dharma, you make your biggest contribution and impact in the world. When you're living in your dharma, you naturally feel confident and positive in your daily work. Even when there are challenges, even when there are difficulties, even when there's resistance, you feel like, no, I can do this. When you're in your dharma, you find balance and health. You're physically balanced, you're emotionally balanced, you're balanced in your relationships. But when we're out of our dharma, we're immediately imbalanced. And when you're in your dharma, you feel as though you're accessing empowerment and you're unleashing your full potential. These are all the gifts of being and finding your dharma, being in your dharma. So most of us lack self-awareness. One person says, I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I'm who I think you think I am. That's how disconnected we've become from our own authenticity. Self-awareness means if someone were to ask you, what are your values? Would we be able to say definitively, these are the values that I live by. When I make a decision, when I decide a direction, when I'm in a difficult situation, these are the values which I ensure I never sacrifice. It's amazing. What are my strengths and weaknesses? How many of us would be able to list down what are the things I'm really strong at and what are my weaknesses? Have we definitively understood that? If someone were to ask, what is your purpose? What is your passion? We may have a sense, yeah, this is kind of stuff I'd like to do. This kind of feels good. I used to think it was a bit of that. Nowadays, I'm thinking it's a bit of this. How many of us have found our passion and purpose? What is my natural habitat? Do we know the environment in which we thrive? And do we know environments in which we become weak or we become and feel disempowered? Habitat is everything. And what are my behaviors and emotions? What am I triggered by? What things do I get affected easily by? What kind of triggers do I respond to? And what kind of things excite me and drive me and give me enthusiasm and hunger? The more we know these things, the more we can understand what way and what direction in which to take our life. But what's happened is that we're surrounded by so many noises around us that oftentimes we haven't deeply understood this about ourselves. And therefore, if you want to find your Dharma, first take time to analyze your own personality. Do a personality test. Reflect. Ask yourself questions. What work do I do that just makes me forget time? What work would I do even if I wasn't paid? What work just comes to me effortlessly? What work do I do that just I do much better than I do anything else? These kind of questions, as we explore, help us to understand the unique thing that we've been given. The second step in finding your Dharma is have coaches, have mentors, have people around you who can help you identify things in yourself that you can't see. They say it's difficult to see the picture when you're inside the frame. And so having coaches and mentors who can help you to see things can help you find your Dharma. And finally, attempt. Don't be scared to try different things. They say the most dangerous phrase in the English language is, "We've always done it this way." So oftentimes we get comfortable in a certain way of doing things and we're not open to attempting, experimenting, or exploring other things. When we do this, then what happens is we find our Dharma. Your Dharma is basically what you're really excited by, that simultaneously you have some ability and competence in, that simultaneously you can use to make a beautiful contribution to the world and to other people's lives. If you find an activity which meets 1, 2, and 3, then it's very likely to be your Dharma. And sometimes it's put in this way. If you can find something you love doing, that you're good at, that you're paid for, and that the world needs, that is your Dharma. Now you may say, dream on, brother. Live in the real world, man. This don't think you gotta work, you gotta earn money, live in the real world. Actually, the point is that when you live in your Dharma, it will earn you money. Because that's the best thing you can offer the world. What would you say most people are doing? A passion, a mission, a vocation, or a profession? A vocation? Really? You think that's what most people are doing? Most people are doing a profession. And that's why when we're on our deathbeds, we don't look back and say, I wish I spent more time at work. I really regret it. I should have spent more hours in the office. So, this is one thing the Bhagavad Gita tells us. We have the tendency to try to imitate or to try to follow other people's Dharma. Einstein said everyone is a genius, but if you convince a fish that it has to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking it's a failure. In other words, we each have a unique Dharma, and the trick of life to find your spiritual flow is to find your own Dharma. And so I can't go into detail about this, But this is very, very profound. The Bhagavad Gita explains that there are 4 kind of archetype of personalities, and each one of us, and none of these are better than anyone else. There's no hierarchy here. There's no pecking order. Each one of these archetype personalities are kind of combined within each one of us. And when we find the exact place where we're meant to be and we live according to that dharma, then amazing, mystical, powerful, impactful things happen in our lives. But most people are missing their own superpower. I'll come back to this later. So, imagine you've done all of this work and you've found your dharma. You know. How many of you, don't be humble, just put your hand up if you feel you know what your dharma is. Okay, so about 6 people. Okay. So all of us have some work to do, finding our dharma. But the interesting thing is the Bhagavad Gita and spiritual teachers, they tell us, even if you find your dharma, that's not the end of the story. Because the next difficult thing is to live your dharma. I'm just going to skip this out. Sorry. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's one verse which Krishna repeats twice, where he explains that it's much more fruitful to engage in your own dharma than living someone else's dharma. And in modern terminology, Steve Jobs said, your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Now, my question to you is, even if someone knows what their dharma is, knows what their purpose is, why do you think sometimes it is they don't live their purpose? Yes? Fear? Anything else?
Addictions to sense enjoyments.
Addiction to like immediate pleasure or immediate comfort or immediate gratification that my current life gives me, and I don't want to sacrifice that.
Possible failure.
Failure. Fear of failure, that, I may make this change and then is it all going to work out? At least what I'm doing now kind of works, even though it's not perfect. Fitting in. Fear of judgment, that someone else will say, why you, like this is not, you're doing something silly. You're doing something that's not progressive for your life. Yes? Inertia, just a laziness, a lethargy, just a lack of, I can't be bothered. Expectation from people around us. Yes. Obligations. We have responsibilities. We're locked into a certain life. We have to pay bills. We have to maintain our situations. And now I'm just going to follow my passion, my purpose. But I don't know, am I going to be able to maintain my security? Just as hard as finding your dharma is living your dharma. These are some of the excuses, or not excuses, objections that we come up with. They are excuses. I'm too old. It would be irresponsible. I'm comfortable already. What about if I fail? I don't have time. Basically, what's limiting in our life practically is ourselves, our past beliefs, our fears, our ego, and opinions and expectations around us. The people in the world who find their spiritual flow state are able to go beyond these 4 things. If we can go beyond these 4 things, we have the opportunity to live to our highest potential. But it's not easy. So therefore, being aware of what's holding me back helps us to move in a more progressive direction. The third thing that Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita is that it's not just about finding your dharma, it's not just about living your dharma. Of the 6 who know their dharma, would any of you say you feel like you're living in your dharma right now? No? Even if you're living in your dharma, there's something higher. Because purpose is never selfish. Even if one finds the profession, the work, the kind of thing that they're meant to be doing in life, which unleashes their abilities and their personality, there's something more that they have to do to find their spiritual flow state and inner happiness. Finding your dharma is hard. Living your dharma is perhaps even harder. But connecting your dharma means that once you're living your purpose, to engage that purpose, not just for selfish ends. The abilities and the personalities which we've been given are a wonderful opportunity to contribute to other people's lives, to contribute to making the world a better place, to contribute to combating negativity and kind of injustice in the world. And when we use our dharma in the service of others, and we connect our dharma to something more than just our own lives, then what happens is we find the highest type of satisfaction. They say the sure formula for a boring life is a life which begins and ends with I, me, and mine. If our lives are primarily about I, me, and mine, it won't be as exciting, enthusing, and enlivening and empowering as it could be. And so the beauty and the opportunity that each one of us have is to use our purpose in selfless contribution to others. The Indian writer Tagore, he said, I went to sleep and I dreamt that life is joy. I woke up and I realized life is service. I began to serve and I realized service is joy. Service is joy. We build a life, we build a living, or we get a living by what we earn, but we build a life by what we give, by what we share, by what we contribute. And so, this, in a nutshell, is spiritual flow state. Number one, to do the internal work to find out, who am I? Who am I really? Who am I beyond what everyone has told me I should be? The second thing is to live your dharma, to go beyond all those limitations of ego, of past beliefs, of opinions and expectations, of fears of failure. And number three, to then utilize what you have in service to others. And when we do these three things, then we are living in spiritual flow state. And practically, ancient spiritual teachers tell us that only a rare few people will make it to that point. But having knowledge and understanding of what it takes means that each one of us in this room could be those rare few people, because all of you have taken the time to really think about this, to really contemplate. And so what we're trying to do here is create a forum where people can actually deeply reflect and challenge the way we're living, so that when we go out there in the world, then we can actually transform ourselves into being the best version of ourselves. There's two lies in this world. One lie is when people tell you you'll amount to nothing. And the other lie in this world is when people tell you you can be anything you want to be. Both are lies. It's not that you amount to nothing, and it's not that you can be anything you want to be, but you can be everything that you're meant to be. Because each one of us have a unique dharma, have a unique purpose, and when we find that, and when we unleash that, then we'll look back at our life and feel no regrets. That was a good life. I did what I was meant to do. And that's the kind of feeling that we want to have as we go through this journey, this beautiful journey of life. Thank you very much for your attention, for your participation. I don't know how we're doing for time. Do we have time to I don't know if anyone would have any questions or if there's anything I said which perhaps you would like clarification on, then very happy to respond. Yes?
How do you not compare yourself to others? How do you, let's say someone else has more money, some more something, and even if it's not yours, it still feels you still compare yourself. How do you not do that?
How do we overcome comparison? The reason why we compare is because we have the wrong definition of success. We live in a world where we're measured by numbers. Your percentage in an exam, your popularity on social media, your position in a ranking, your power in a structure. The world judges us on numbers, on external achievements. Einstein, he said, everything that can be counted doesn't necessarily count. And sometimes the things that can't be counted count for more. When we were monks, what we often used to do is a guided meditation. And we used to take a guided meditation, take a deep breath. And we used to do a guided meditation on our own funeral. And in that meditation, we would visualize the person coming forth to give the eulogy of our own life. And then what we would do in the guided meditation is we would write down, how would we want to be remembered? And the quality that I appreciated in them most was, and they made a difference to the world by, and what I always saw in them was that and so we would write down the eulogy of our own life, and then we'd come out of our meditation, and then we'd ask ourselves, what have I done in the last 6 months to become this person? And then we'd realize we all have a to-do list, but we don't have a to-be list. And the amazing thing is, people won't remember you for what you did. People will remember you for who you are and how you made them feel. And therefore, the whole idea of spirituality is to help us shift our perspective from the external, superficial, immediate measures of your own self-worth that society establishes, and go to a deeper sense of what actually brings me deep fulfillment and satisfaction. If you compare yourself to someone and say, yeah, I earn more than them, and that gives you a bit of satisfaction, it's a very superficial type of satisfaction. The real satisfaction is knowing I'm doing what I'm meant to do, and I'm doing it for a higher purpose.
Just to back onto that though, isn't it also sometimes that you compare yourself to other people because you don't think you are enough? You don't need society pressure for that, but in your own self-worth, that you don't feel it so because of that. You're comparing not with society pressures, but I'm not fulfilled with my life. I have my own internal measure, what it means, whether I'm, like you said, Am I living the dharma? That itself.
The main reason we compare is because we don't understand this point deeply enough, that everyone is on a different journey. Imagine you go into an exam hall and you are sitting next to the cleverest student and you're like, it must be arrangement. And you decide to copy their exam paper, their answer paper. And you come out of the exam hall and you copy their answer paper to the T and you're like, aced it. And then you come out of the exam hall and you realize everyone had a different question paper. That is perhaps the story of our lives. Because we don't understand everyone is living a different script. And I just need to live my script. So, yeah, another reason we compare is because when we're not moving forward, then the way we feel ourselves to be better is to try to find someone who's behind, by our estimation. But again, it's a very superficial way of actually feeling some self-worth. The real thing is we have to know, what's my question paper? And what do I have in me to find the answers to that? And let me just live my... And that's why solitude is so important. Why do we tell people to take time, to disconnect from the world, to be... Because it's only in that solitude that we really find ourselves. So therefore, when I was traveling in India, I asked a yogi once if he could give me some advice for my spiritual journey. And he looked at me and he said, every year, disconnect for 1 month. Every month, disconnect for 1 day. And every day, disconnect for 1 hour. And then he looked at me and he said, disconnect to connect. And I looked at him, I was like, you should be on TEDx. And I still try to follow that today. Every year, disconnect for a month. Just go into a completely different environment outside of your normal. Every month, disconnect for a day. Just go out into the fields, into a park. Turn off your device and just be with yourself. And every day, disconnect for an hour. Join the 5 a.m. club. And before the day begins, just connect with your deepest aspiration, your deepest identity. So we don't do enough of that in the world today. We're just constantly surrounded by noise. And therefore we revert to things like comparison, competition, and then it degrades into criticism and complaining. Cancers of the mind. Thank you. Yes?
More of a curiosity question. What questions have you had in your spiritual journey?
What questions have I had in my spiritual journey? Wow. Could be here all day. I think all the general questions that people ask. Why do the goals that people set in the world not seem to resonate with my heart? What happens after this life? Is death the end? I think the biggest question that led me towards monastic life was the question of suffering. Somehow or other, by karma, whatever it may be, I didn't go through a childhood in which it was so turbulent, but I was I'm not surrounded, but I would see suffering on television. And for me, this was just like, it displaced me. Because I was looking at my life thinking, I got everything here. And then there are these people who are like in poverty. There are these people in the middle of a war zone. There are these like people who just suffer from these health like difficulties. Like, why is the world so unfair? There's something wrong here. So for me, that's what led me to questioning, like, why is the world like this? Why is the world so imperfect? And later on, I realized that, yeah, there's a reason for all of that. And there's also a contribution that I can make to help people in that. And when I understood that reason and that contribution, then that began to drive my life trajectory like that. Thank you. Yes.
One thing I kind of struggle with is with Dharma, the idea of Dharma is that I feel that somewhere I've made some like negative spiritual growth in my past, and so that maybe I used to have some talents and some natural talents and abilities that I don't feel like I possess anymore at that same level. So my question is, can Dharma change based on our decisions and how we live our lives, or is it something we just have to rekindle if that's our godly ability?
Such a good question. Thank you. There are certain things that, as we say in colloquial English, we're hardwired for. There are some things which you just can't ignore. You just can't. It's just like it's you. But within that, yes, you can lose some of those abilities, but you can re-hone abilities as well. Within your Dharma, there's flexibility to kind of explore other things and develop certain parts of your personality. But basically, Dharma means we're functioning, if you imagine, within a football field. Think of Dharma like a football field. There are lines. And if you stay within those lines and you play on the pitch, then you can score the goal. But within that, you can decide how you want to maneuver, whether you want to be here or there, what tactics you want to play. But play within the field of your Dharma. So that means each one of us have a field of Dharma within which we can play the game of our life. And within that, you can sometimes feel like you're losing. And within that, sometimes you can feel like I'm striving. And within that, sometimes you're like, we need to change tactics here. But that's all okay. That's all part of a dynamic life. It's not like now you found your Dharma, it's like a one-pager. This is you for the rest of your life. No, there are certain things that draws out, and within that, it's dynamic. So Dharma is also, there's a certain sense in which Dharma is fluid, because circumstances change. Like say, for example, we're in this building, God forbid. Imagine if there's a fire. And someone's like, pick up the fire extinguisher. You're like, no, it's not my Dharma. It's not my purpose. I have to live according to my passion. No, there's a fire, come on. So there's a sense in which sometimes there are changing environments, there are changing needs, there are changing pressures. And within that, so Dharma, there's a fluidity. But basically, there's something you're meant to be doing which you can't ignore. And that's what we have to honor. And it's beautiful. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
Could you elaborate more on how to connect to others?
How to connect? You mean the last thing I said? Each one of us have talents. And how can we now use those talents to empower, encourage, uplift, and contribute to other people's lives? If someone is really good in their profession, they found their Dharma, and they just make millions and millions of pounds for themselves, guess what? You're living in your Dharma, and you're achieving so many things. But when you sit alone in the room, you'll feel a vacuum within your heart. Because Dharma is never selfish. We live to give. We're all here to make a beautiful contribution to other people's lives. When you try to make other people wise, you become wiser in the process. When you try to help other people solve their problems, you know what? Your problems disappear. When you try to actually empower others, you become empowered. And when you try to help other people find their deepest happiness, in that we find an incredible fulfillment that nothing else can compare to. And so, a life means a life of giving, because we live to give. And so, this is what it means. And if everyone were to do that in the world, wouldn't the world be a beautiful place? Because everyone uses their unique superpower to empower others. That's the kind of world we want to be living in. So yeah, so okay, thank you. All right, I think we are done, is it? Yes, thank you so much for your attention and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Maybe we can give another massive round of applause to Keshav Swami. Okay, so we've been traveling around all over the place the last few weeks. Keshav Swami just in the last week has spoken at Apple headquarters in Silicon Valley. He's spoken at Amazon, spoken at Stanford, and it's amazing to see with all these different audiences how much people are enamored by the wisdom that he has and how he makes such difficult concepts so simple for all of us. So, as our host mentioned earlier, maybe I can speak about the mic. Can you all hear me at the back? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, go about the mic. So, as our host mentioned earlier, Keshav Swami is a prolific author as well, and we actually have 2 of his books available with us today. So Keshav Swami was speaking about the Bhagavad Gita, and we've got 2 books which are themed on the Bhagavad Gita, which he's actually written. The first one is Gita 3. We spoke today about finding your dharma, navigating through life's challenges, and this book in particular is incredible at doing that. There's over 50 different life hacks, experiments, and meditations which you can go through in this book, based on the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, which can really help you find your potential, find out what you mean, find out the meaning of life, and really help you navigate through life. So this is an incredible book which we have available today. And the second book which we have is called Gita Life. Gita Life is a summary of the Bhagavad Gita. If any of you have ever tried to read it, I know when I first tried to read it, a lot of it just went straight over my head. It's an incredible book, but it's very complex as well at the same time. And Keshav Swami has this incredible ability, like we mentioned, is to make these concepts that are quite complex really, really simple and easy for us to digest and understand. And so this is a summary of the Bhagavad Gita done in acronym form. So each of the 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita has its own acronym, with the letters going through the different themes. So it's a great study guide and complement to the Bhagavad Gita, which is also available to that there. So we only have a couple copies of each of these left. This morning we sold out most of our books, so this is probably the last chance to get them on this tour. So if anyone would like some, I'll be at the back there, and we'll be distributing these at a very special price today of just $10 each, as Mantra House are very kindly sponsoring the restaurant. So if anyone would like to get it, I'll be at the back there. We accept card payments, Apple Pay or Tap to Pay. And Keshav Swami, if it's okay, would be available to make you sign any copies of the book. Thank you so much.
Quickly before we end, just wanted to share that we do have weekly events that are online. I know many of you traveled from far and wide, up to maybe 3 hours, I think was the furthest. So thank you so much for coming so far. We run a Wednesday series called Wisdom Wednesdays. We get monks and other spiritualist thinkers to come join us every Wednesday from around the world to share their wisdom. On Thursday, we started a new series called Science on This, Spirituality at the Helm. It really takes a scientific approach at trying to understand the science of spirituality, right? Spirituality is a science. It's not just an emotion. And then, of course, this one is from last week, but we just had the Bhakti talk from today. I also wanted to share that on October 17th, we have a very special event. I know some of you have been to this program before. It's going to be on the University of Washington campus in the intellectual house. The ambience and everything is just beautiful. So it's a 2-part, or maybe you can call it 3-part event if you count the food. So we'll start with an yin yoga sound immersion. We have a world-renowned gong artist coming with all of her gongs and everything, plus a really great yin yoga instructor. So we'll start with that for an hour, then we'll have some food, and then we'll end with an hour of kirtan, mantra meditation, a little bit of what we just experienced today. And these are just some pictures from the event that we had last time. right. So you can see the room is, we love this room, but that room is bigger and a lot more beautiful and lots of people, a great way to meet the community. So just want to let you know that if you scan the QR code, that takes you to our WhatsApp community. If you join the WhatsApp community, we'll be posting a special 50% discount code for the events. That is a ticketed event because the venue costs us money and it's more expensive to put on. But if you join the WhatsApp group, we will send you a code, or if you do not have WhatsApp, please come talk to me or either Deepak in the white shirt and we can exchange that information with you. That being said, thank you so much everybody for coming out today. It takes so many volunteers to make this possible. And if you have not had food yet, we still have food left, so please do come help yourself. Or if you would like seconds, we can also get seconds. And before we end, if it's okay with Keshav Maharaj, we'd like to take a group picture. Is that okay?
Sure.
So what we'll do is, because the front is a bit crowded, we'll have everybody stand on this wall facing the windows such that the lighting is good. So while getting up, you can also grab your pillows and leave them on this wall, and we'll make sure no one falls, trips, or does anything crazy like that.
Thank you for playing. Appreciate it.